Hi, my name is Steve Clapham. I'm the founder behind the balance sheet, and I'd like to welcome you to this videoed podcast where I'm interviewing my friend Yuri, who's got an unpronounceable surname, but don't worry, I'll put it in the show notes. If you like this, please don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast, and visit our website, behindthebalancesheet.com, where you can sign up for our free newsletter. Yuri, welcome. It's really great to see you again. Now, tell me, you are a fund manager with over 10 years of experience. Why did you set up Snippet Finance, which I'm a big fan of, by the way?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Steve. So, as you said, I've been an investor for almost a decade now, actually a bit longer than a decade. Investing is a really interesting and fascinating kind of profession. And one of the main things that you have to do is you have to read a lot. And you have to read quite broadly to sort of, have that particular moment where an idea strikes you. And Snippet Finance is maybe a distillation of my sort of reading. I used to read a lot, especially on the internet. I find it as a fantastic source of just brilliant information and great ideas. And I used to do that while I was working at my previous firm, which was Majetti Asset Management. And everything I would sort of read, any interesting snippets of information I would find, I would put on the internal chat room. After I left Majetti, I basically needed that outlet because I was still reading a lot and I needed somewhere to sort of put all of these ideas. And partly it was slightly selfishly, so I would have a kind of a catalog of everything that I find myself. So I looked into starting a blog and I basically did it. And I decided, I'll just publish these publicly. We called it Snippet Finance because the idea was little short snippets of information. And that's what you have today. The blog is essentially a curation of the most interesting things that I find on the internet, delivered in these short little snippets. I'll add a little bit of value, describe what it is. And there's always a lot of depth behind each post if you want to read up about it. And that's sort of how I did things before and how it's presented publicly now.
I mean, did you have the idea that you wanted to do a certain number, or does it vary very significantly from week to week as to how much you put in, or have you got the Yuri's personal snippets and the snippets that we get access to? How does it all stack up?
So I read a lot. I would say I'm reading all of the time. I'm getting newsletters coming in from different Substacks. I read a lot of different blogs. People send me things, and the whole idea is, as you sort of look at all of this information, and I kind of try to distill it down into the things that I find interesting. And interesting is probably the best word to use, but I try to look at things that are a bit contrarian, a little bit different to what you get in the sort of regular drumbeat of information coming from the FT and the Wall Street Journal, just to make people think, to inform them, to inspire them a bit, to give them something that they want to read. What you'll see on the site is it's very, very broad. There's no sort of secret hidden snippets that I keep for myself. I genuinely try to put everything I find there. And the reason for that is because I know all of this information is publicly available, it's free, and so people should have access to it. The problem that I'm trying to solve, I guess, is this curation and identification of what's interesting and what's not. Because the internet's an overwhelming place, there's too much information out there, and knowing what's good, it helps to have a guide. And I think a decade in investing gives you just a very keen eye to figure out what that is.
No, there's no question. And obviously what you're doing is a bit more added value than people who just produce links, because you're actually commenting on it. So I find that quite helpful, because it means you don't actually need to read the whole thing, but you can figure out what the essence of it is. So I think it's a really, really good idea. I was just curious. I mean, when you were at the doing the full-time fund management role, how did you find the time to go looking up the internet? Because I found that I was overwhelmed with sell-side research. I mean, most of it was pretty useless, but just trying to, wade through the morass of it, I found, I didn't have time to go looking for stuff because I had so much being thrown at me. Even just trying to get your inbox clear. I mean, I never bothered trying to get my inbox clear, but even just trying to make sure that you hadn't missed anything.
Yeah, I think it is the problem, isn't it? You quickly realize that the problem is too much information, not too little information. I think the way I did it was I carved out this niche of looking at the internet as a source of information, and perhaps did a little bit less sell side than your classic traditional research sources. And that was my niche within my company, and I was able to find interesting information out there. And I think I've been slightly vindicated in that, because the internet has become much better as a place for information. You can get investor letters, some of the things that you put up in your club that are just fantastic, resources out there that are rival the sell side in quality. So that was the way I kind of looked at it. I said, look, I'm just going to carve out my time. This is what I'm going to be looking at. I historically had a big blog list back when, things were still on Blogspot and all of these old platforms. Now things are a lot easier, aren't they? You can get a Substack, comes into your inbox, and you clear it in the same way.
But the problem that I find is it's very difficult to know which ones to look at, because there's like a huge volume of them. And interestingly, I was looking at a blog the other day, and it had down the side some blogs that I'd never heard of. So I thought, oh, well, let's just go and look at these. And it had, I don't know, maybe 25 or 30 blogs, and I just racked them all up in a set of tabs, and I just went through them. And it was probably 2 years old. Only 1 in 3 of those blogs still existed.
Wow.
So, you've got a problem of one, dead ends, and two, the stuff that's there, how do you know what's good? It's a hugely time-consuming thing.
It is. I think the first thing to say is that I'm not trying to create a comprehensive overview of the internet. I think that would be monumentally impossible to do. I think this is why you need these, like someone who's really fascinated finding these little nuggets of information out there, and just kind of makes it their passion. I think the best thing I can say is I'd probably be writing Snippet Finance even if no one read Snippet Finance. And the reason I just do it for myself, it's almost a little bit of a notebook. In terms of figuring out what's interesting, I wrote a blog post. So I've started to do a bit more longer form writing. So on the site, you'll see there's a section called the Snippet blog. If you go in there, you'll find an article which is called Signal to Noise or Noise to Signal. I can't remember which way I put it around. And it kind of gives a little bit of an overview of how I try to figure out what the interesting thing is from the sort of background noise of all of this information. And to give you a sense, one is experience. You sort of know pretty quickly. You've got a wealth of experience knowing what is interesting and what's not. It's things like knowing what to read deeply and what to sort of skim through. You get very, very good at sort of speed reading and skimming through things. I think charts are a great way. Snippet focuses quite a bit on charts. They say a picture paints 1,000 words, and it's genuinely true. They summarize a lot of really fascinating information very, very quickly. And it's that kind of thing, trying to get the signal. But I think a site like Snippet exists exactly for this reason, that you have too many, that blogs come and go, and you just need someone to guide you through this world.
No, there's no question that it's a very useful thing that you're doing, and very interesting. How long do you spend each week reading?
Yeah, I got asked this question the other day as well. I think I've just become very, very efficient at reading. You would have done, as an analyst, that's what you have to do. You just have to be able to.
Well, the guys laughed at me because I did a speed reading course. So
yeah, perfect.
Somebody came into the office for a morning and taught me how to speed read. And I said, does anybody want to come in with me? And they said, what are you doing that for? What a waste of time. I said, well, don't be stupid. I spend 3 hours. I'm reading, 20 hours a week, 30 hours. I never counted up.
Exactly, and getting that extra little bit of efficiency. I think the great thing, that's very, very important, and hopefully comes out from Snippet, and definitely comes out from reading Behind the Balance Sheet, is just how I think both of us sort of think about thinking quite a lot. So we think about, okay, what is the most efficient use of my time? How can I improve this process? And I think doing a speed reading course is perfect for that. I try to always improve my ability to be able to assimilate information. And so when people say how much time, I probably don't spend a huge, like, I'm reading all of the time whenever I get a spare moment. But a lot of that is for my sort of day job, and a lot of that is for other things. But then I see, oh, this is an interesting thing, I'll just put that in Snippet or whatever it is. But I think dedicated Snippet reading is probably only a couple of hours a week, but they're very, very effective hours, because I've become quite good at doing that.
So you did that blog 52 best snippets of the last year, which you've done for the last couple of years, I know. I mean, how many snippets per week on average?
Yeah, so we typically try to do 2 snippets a day to come out. Sometimes it's 1. Back when I started, I was trying to do 3. I try to keep it to 2 a day. I think that's enough for people. So if you subscribe to the newsletter, which I highly recommend everyone do, you'll just, in your inbox twice a week, you'll get an email which will have 3 to 4 snippets. That's it. And that's the whole. Sorry.
We'll put that in the notes. And yeah, I would highly recommend it. And so you've got a couple of hundred past snippets in stock. Are you going to organize those? I mean, if one goes on your website, I mean, can you search for things, or is that?
Yeah, there's a search bar. I've started to tag them, so they're tagged with the various topics. So on the side of the website, you'll see tags. I think everything from ESG to biotech to venture to UK. The tags probably don't really have a massive rhyme or reason, but they're more areas I'm interested in, and sort of the readings taken to it. What you'll find is the site is quite broad. There's a lot of information. I have quite a few subscribers who don't even know finance or are in the financial world that read it, because for them it's that little bit of interesting insight that they can get. And obviously when the charts are about PEs or discount to cash flow or whatever it is, they switch off for that. But I try to make it interesting. So, my dream is people use this in conversations or dig deeper into something, and it inspires them to think about things in the world in a different way. But yeah, we've got that, and there's categories as well, but the categories are bigger things. So, whether it's macroeconomics or stocks, those are the kind of the major ones. Then there's one called tools, which is interesting resources that I find, which obviously include a lot of the stuff that you produce here as well, which I'm a big fan of as well.
Cool. Well, Yuri, thank you so much for doing this. Very interesting. Just if people want to find you, can you just tell us where they can find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So the website is www.snippet.finance. So it's one of the sort of newer endings for websites, which I think is kind of a bit fun. You can go on the website, subscribe to the digest, which, as I said, comes out twice a week. There's a contact form, so if you ever want to reach out to me, you can do that, or you can just drop me an email straight at yuri@snippet.finance. I try to get reply to everybody, and be as helpful as I can. And yeah, and obviously check out the site. If you like it, subscribe, and if you really love it, do spread it around to your friends and tell them about it. I think it'll be, that'll be a huge help for me.
Great. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.